bass.
How did you feel about renewed interest coming back on Betty? You know, so many years went by, and all of a sudden her stature kind of grew, even though she was out of sight and out of mind for a while. Were you surprised by that, and how do you feel about that phenomenon?
I wasn't even into the internet like that. I could do certain things and this and this and that. I used to like to, I was using it to type of different things, but not really be on the internet. So Nikki would call me and say, "Man, Betty all over the internet, man, the internet." I say, "What do you mean?" I said, "Man, you got to check out." I said, "Well, you got to tell me how to do that, how to get there." And slowly I started learning, and checking out stuff. But it was, when it started, it was like overseas stuff that I was seeing. I didn't see too much about America. And then it was like maybe 3-4 years before the film thing came up. And no, before the film thing came up, it was the Light in the Attic reissuing the albums and stuff. So I felt good for Betty. And it just so happens that Phil, he cared about us enough that he included us not only in the documentary, but in playing in different places. And then we hired 2 girls, and one of them was the drummer's daughter, which was Betty's second cousin, and another girl to sing the songs. And we go out, and I think we did about 10 gigs maybe. Got a chance to meet Erykah Badu and Mr. Lane, and what else we do? We went to Benny Holiday Theater, went to Canada, went to Pittsburgh, played in Durham, played in Greensboro for Carlos after he passed. And, after Carlos passed, I was just like, we got to keep going if we're going to do something. So we got my partner here, Gary Purcell, to play guitar, who's getting ready to release his monster smooth jazz CD. Woo. So, I felt like, I've been blessed to come back again. I made it a point to take my grandchildren to the documentary, so they can see, like, hey, I ain't just this dude sitting around in a rocking chair now.
I'm part of history.
Yeah, so, and then I was in the studio one time in Charlotte in Reflection Sounds. And I was also an artist in residence at the Afro American Culture Center when it was down at the Little Rock Church. And Margaret Freeman, who was the drama person, she came in, and me and Michael Porter was in the studio, and this guy, Dwayne Mitchell from Connecticut. She came in the studio and she said, "Hey, they're looking for some people for this film out here. Y'all need to come." And so Michael and somebody else who was in the studio with me went. And so I said, "Oh man," I said, "we trying to finish this track." It was The Color Purple. And every time I see my boy going from the juke joint to the church with the sax, I said, man, I could have been in there. Because all of the cats that I know in Charlotte was in the Color Purple, as extras and stuff. And so I said, well, at least now I'm immortalized in film and as a cartoon. So,
Yeah, you definitely. It took a while, but you fully arrived. You know, um, I just wanted to kind of try to put it in perspective for everybody. Just the magnitude of what Betty accomplished. And I wanted to say that. Do you think the fact that she was sort of, you know, out of the picture, so to speak, added to sort of her mystique and her building legend?
yeah, because a lot of those people that came to see us were probably teenagers then when Betty was out there. We have a lot of younger people at the show. A whole lot of gray haired people like me, So um, music is a funny thing, of how it can capture you or how it can turn you off, But the one thing that Betty had for her was those album covers, you know. You see her, and then you want to know what's inside that album,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And sometimes you like it, sometimes you won't. But that draw is right there. Like I said, I get a lot of emails and Facebook posts from people in like Denmark, Netherlands, uh, Japan. I'm doing another interview with a guy from Italy next week, and it's just, and Betty really ain't into it, you know. Not like, wait, I'm back again, or look at me and so, it's like that for Betty. So I can imagine that the life that Betty lived, or was living in the '70s and the '80s, was really that fast New York thing. It was moving, it was going, she was doing, and everything. That's how she knew. That's how all New Yorkers know. They know how to do this and do that. But then when it's taken out of your hands, the ability to do that, um, there's a lot of things. They talked about it a little bit in the Tales from the Tour Bus. What's her name? Connie. And I didn't like it. I didn't like, the reference to some things that Betty trying to overcome. And Connie's been a friend all of her life. So, she has the right to say what she feels or whatever. And just recently I talked to Connie because she called me because some things were happening, and she'd been taking care of different things for Betty and everything. But it just got to the point to where there's too much happening. It's too much happening. I live to get up on that stage and kick my legs and sing my songs, all this other stuff. If I don't have a manager that's writing, this record company told me that, Ireland told me that, so and so. So we never knew the deals that were being made. All we knew was we come to play, you know. So I think she just got tired.
I get
I
tired.
do.
I get tired just thinking about dealing with that.
Yeah. But what's good about it? When I first met, Phil, and we started conversing, he was still in London, and he told me that he found Betty in a assisted living home that was next to the graveyard, and he said him and this girl Danielle that's doing a master, well, it's a master's in something. They went to the mayor and told him to say, hey, you got to start living here in Pittsburgh, and so and so and so. They got to move to the place where she's at now, and he also got her some back royalties. So in that respect, it's great. It's great that this came about where she can find it, because when she walked away from all that.
Hmm.
And when you walk away from money, when you do the Dave Chappelle, it wasn't 50 million though, but when you walk away from money and just, I don't care, So I love Betty to death. I always call her, check on her, and I was in the hospital for about 4 months, and my voice got destroyed because I had the tubes in and down my throat all the time.
Mm.
And I called Betty, and I said, "Hey, Betty." She said, "What's this?" It's Fred. You sound like Miles. I was like, so she's still, but she still got a sense of humor, but she doesn't want to be funny. It's like she lost funny. You got to talk to her in a certain way. And it's never really any joking. We'll talk about certain things, and then I'll say, "Okay, Betty," and she'll say the same thing every time, the same way. "Okay, bye," and that'd be it.
Hmm. Wow.
But
well, you know what? She left us with a great legacy. Even, those are some classic recordings, and she did it her way,
Yeah. In a time when, you had to give up something. You had to give up a lot sometimes, If it wasn't your soul, it was some of your publishing, or, you had to pay your manager, you had to pay your band, you got to, what's going on, man. And I thought after I got sick and after I got 100% disability and then retired, I said, I don't care if I ever see a stage again. This was in 2007. Every day I want to go play somewhere until, it's in you, it's what you do. I told some cats one time, I was talking to them, and I said, man, that you didn't choose music chose you. And you have to think about it. I see somebody playing music and everything, so I want to do that. I've never taken a keyboard lesson in my life. Never taken a bass lesson, drum lesson, but I wanted to play them, so I played them. And people think a lot of times, well, maybe there's a God, maybe there ain't a God. Find your musician who's never go look at Stevie Wonder. The great child Stevie Wonder. But even guys that can see, people that can do, it comes to you, and that's what you do. You can't get away from it. It's gonna be there. But after Carlos died, I haven't touched my keyboard since we played his memorial.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to break that. I'm trying to break out of that.
What's next up for you musically? You just gonna do the interview circuit, or are you gonna get back to keyboards, do you think?
I'm going to. I've been trying to. You probably know how to how to steer me. I've been trying to write my book, man, for ooh, about 6, 8 months now. The furthest I've gotten is right after, right up to high school and going into the army. I think what my problem is I got too much stuff, but it's hard for me. I want to write about this. I want to write about what we talked about. Then I want to write about what happened to me in the army in Vietnam, and then meeting all these people. I met so many people. I'm trying to incorporate that, so I don't know, man. I got to think about it some more. But that's the next thing I want to do. I want to write my book because I want my children and my grandchildren to know who I was. Not that I would just pop off. If somebody asks them, what's your grandfather do? Bam, they can tell them, read the book. So that's one thing I've been focusing on. And the young lady out of Atlanta is helping me, and I know she's like, well, why you haven't sent me anything? It's hard, man.
Oh, it's definitely hard. I did a book on funk, which is back in the corner there. And it took me, it took me like 25 years to do that book because
come on.
I started in the late 80s and worked on it until the early 90s. And then I put it on hold because I had a family, I got married, and all this life stuff took over. And then, 4 or 5 years ago, I went back to it and said, damn it, I'm going to finish this thing no matter what. And but also, like you, when I first started it, I was too broad. I was trying to like have it be like the encyclopedia, the all-encompassing encyclopedia of funk. And I realized that was just too broad, and I had to narrow it down. So you're going to have to do that. Otherwise, you'll probably, it won't happen.
Okay. I appreciate that advice.
Yeah.
Do you go out on the scene much in Charlotte? Well, did you go out on the scene much?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, not this year because of what's going on, but, I do what I can. But since I moved out here after, living my life in Los Angeles, I've been disappointed, overall in terms of, like funk music and that kind of stuff. A lot of times those groups don't come through here. And I think back in the day, I hear, back in the 70s and maybe into early 80s, they always came through Charlotte, but not so much anymore.
Well, they don't, you don't see. So I got some posters of different shows that were back in the day. And they stopped. It dwindled off. It was sort of like smooth jazz really has taken over to the point of you can go in and you can sit down, you can have a drink or something, and you can listen to some smooth jazz artists like the Middle C. The Middle C, I knew those cats back in the 70s. They run the booking agency, East Coast. That's how they getting the groups in there. I haven't been there yet, but a friend of mine, Mel Gray, he's kind of helping them along. Now they got Jonathan Gilman. Him and his father had a club called Jonathan's in Charlotte that I used to play a lot before they stopped or something. And then they had the Normandy Hotel. I don't know what they do. I haven't seen Jonathan in so long. But back in the day, Charlotte, everything you see downtown and back down Tryon Street going to Batesford Road was all black. Even those big condos and stuff in there, they bought all this stuff from black people. So they had clubs, Soul 21, the Hi-Fi, oh God, Birdcage. All of these are some clubs. I played the gig in there, my band, and Peebo Bryson. First time I ever seen him. He was with a group called Moses Dillon and the Soul Aces. He played a blind holly guitar. He can play guitar. And, so Charlotte was jumping in that respect. Um, they had a lot of musicians who were really, really happening, especially sax players and guitar players. But it was music. If you was a musician and you were in Charlotte, you would get help as far as broadening your knowledge or playing. There was no, in certain cities, it's like, man, we scorched them last night. Man, we killed them last night. It wasn't like that in Charlotte. I don't really know the music scene in Charlotte now because everything I see is always like smooth jazz. Ain't no funk at all,
No, or even, real jazz, the straight jazz. But
that's what they said the Middle C was gonna be. I read the first thing they put out, the Real Jazz Club.
I noticed that, the newer funk groups like, Galactic or Lettuce or Motet or the New Master Sounds or Dumpster Funk and groups like that, they mostly will come to Asheville and play, but not to Charlotte.
Asheville, and we do a lot of gigging up in Asheville, boy. They're different kind of people up there. A sax player, two sax players, Lynn Woods, guy who used to play with my group, and Stanley Beard, they're from Asheville. And so is my cousin, Aaron Mills.
Oh, yeah.
Played with Cameo. We didn't even talk about Cameo.
Aaron Mills is your cousin? Oh, wow.
I've talked to him. Every time I talk to him, he getting ready to go somewhere. What was he doing the last time? He said something. Well, I know he ain't doing nothing now. I'm gonna call him after we get off.
He's a beast on that bass.
I looked at his. I looked at a picture that was way back there when the guy Wayne was singing with him.
Oh yeah.
And Aaron was laying down on the floor, and I said, "Look, shoot, Aaron ain't about this tall."
That's a Cameo picture right there.
Yeah.
That's when they were down to only 5 of them, though.
Because what's the name? Neff Tennant, he's one of my friends on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him to come on this show too. But
if you ever listen to Doug and them, man, Living Color.
Oh yeah, I've seen them several times, and Doug Wimbush and Vernon Reed, of course.
That's who I was with up when I was in New Jersey, when I was at Plainfield. Doug Wimbush, Dennis was up there, Dennis Chambers, and Skip Alexander. He had 2 names, Skip McDonald, Skip Alexander, and Cindy Mizell. Cindy Mizell sang with Luther. But first she started with Kashif. Then she went to Luther. She sang with Luther till he died. And then she went with Steely Dan and Bruce Springsteen. And I was like, you gonna make all the money it is. They had a group called The Mail that never took off. But I think she got a son that just got picked up by the Cleveland Browns or something. He went to Ohio State. All of those people were hanging around up at Sierra Sound for Sugar Hill. They had their own studio, and a Cameo would record up there at Sierra Sound. And
what year was that?
80, 83, 84.
So around the time of She's Strange and that kind of stuff for them?
Yeah, whatever, yeah, because I walked in, we were supposed to be next, and I heard this thing, and I walked in, and it was Larry, and man, it was like, bam. It was like hitting so hard, man. And then as soon as I walk in, Steve Jerome, he cut it off. He said, hey, man, not yet. So that was the same time, because sometimes we would record there and other times we recorded unique studios. And Larry would be up there too. And it was the same time that he had the female manager. I think it was the girl that was the mayor of Atlanta. So it was about maybe 83, 84. So I went to Norby Walters had a party, his annual party. Norby Walters at that time booked 90% of the black acts. If you had a record out and stuff like that, and you were going on tour, Norby would set up everything. All you had to do was play. But you kill you on the other side though. But he had this big party at this I think it was a Red Parrot. And his top money maker was Rick James. So Rick James was there, Patti LaBelle, Larry from Cameo. All kind. Let me see. I think the Gap Band, everything, but it was like in this big club. And Norby, he was kind of out there. But he was making that money, man. That was his circuit back then. You knew what you had to do back then, as far as payola, as far as getting out, traveling. Most bands, after that record's out, their lifeline is the road, you know. And that's what happened to Betty. You can sit at home and make money, and you got the record out there, but if it ain't getting pumped and everything, you got to go out. You got to, I've seen a lot of bands for like $1.99 that were on the road, knowing what they had to do, like Confunction. Saw them for 99 cents, a radio station put them out there. But in the funk game, you don't get opportunities like that, because people, you know, it's a different world. A different world. We probably could have put on some suits and some steps.
We were talking about funk bands. Would you consider Cameo a funk band?
Of course.
So there's another one then.
Yeah, of course. You know, then you had somebody might say back in the day, I don't know if you remember, you probably don't, you're too young. BT Express, Brass Construction. These are not funk bands, but they were all bands that were Sun,
Slave.
Slave was almost fun. I love Stevie Arrington, boy. I love him. He's the only singer that I ever heard in my life that can sing out the pocket and it be happening. Because he'd be all over the place. Yeah, he'd be way out there. But I think
the song called "Way Out."
Yeah, but then just imagine of all the ones that we haven't heard, or that haven't made it to the forefront. Because I'll be honest, every band you start naming that said they come to Charlotte, I never heard it before in my life. You said they play up in Asheville. I never heard any of them names. But there's a lot of people out there. You know, Mike Hampton tried to do a thing. I don't know if he's still doing it. You know, and he made the most magnificent solo on Knee Deep. Good God. I can listen to 18 minutes. I mean, that 18 minutes.
Yeah. He's my favorite funkadelic guitar player. A lot of people like Eddie Hazel the best, but I like Hampton.
Let me see who else. You might be right. And then Jerome, on drums. I listened to "Got to Give Up the Funk" recently, and I never listened to it like that on the drum thing about how he was playing drums on it, and it made me realize that once when they got that Hall of Fame thing, he was saying that he thanked George Clinton for letting him bust out on "Got to Give Up the Funk," and nobody played. When I listened to it, I realized that people who do that, they don't do it right. His drums are really somewhere else.
Mm.
And we won't even talk about Bernie. We won't talk about Bernie, man. Hey, you can't find two keyboard players, even the one that's playing with George and them now, that can play Bernie's stuff.
Yeah,
Cause he
one of a
was
kind.
you talking about somebody being out there. Uh, and then it hurt so bad when Bernie's wife, and I've been to Bernie's house. I was at Bernie's house on one of his birthdays in Plainfield, and he wasn't even there. But he was doing a session, and he came in, and a record that he was on was playing, and he said, "Ow, ow," and he started it over, you know. But he don't think like other keyboard players. He don't. He put stuff so crazy, and then they fell out about money. And I haven't really wanted to read this book or see this documentary, Tear the Roof Off. Have you seen it?
I have, yeah. It's anti-George, basically.
What you gonna do?
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
I mean they're all complaining about it, but I mean, people that were there that I talked to, they'll say, hey, they knew what they were getting into. I mean, they knew what was what. They can't just only point the finger at George.
it's kind of hard. Hey, it's just like any corporation, but you're not the CEO. See, he may have been the CEO with a band, but then you got somebody on top of the music and the business part, because when he signed that deal just to keep stuff afloat and then try to Sly did the same thing, but Sly got his money. But they just, judge, depend on the day what judge you get. And he ruled that George made a deal, and so he couldn't get the back royalties and stuff. But hey, he kept it alive for how many years? He kept it afloat,
He's
and
still
people say,
and like we talked about seeing him, he's still pushing it forward.
yeah, yeah.
Fred, it's been great talking about your music history and about Betty Davis and all that great music and great memories. And I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing that with the Truth and Rhythm audience.
Hey man, I'm honored, because I've been up on the internet and I've seen your work, and I'm in the class with a lot of great people, and I appreciate you doing that.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for making the time and continued good health and hopefully some music in the future too.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Take good care, Fred.
All right.
Hey, back at Truth and Rhythm headquarters. Thank you for joining us on another magical ride with Truth and Rhythm. Whether you're watching or listening, as always, thank you so much for your continued interest and support. Be sure to subscribe. Go to YouTube, go to the Funkin' Stuff channel. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives and breathes and thrives. Also, goodies here like TIR Quick Takes. And if you subscribe, you know what? You get the show before anyone else. It's free. If you love jazz, funk, R&B, soul, you can't miss it. Pass it along. Tell a friend. Tell family. This audience is growing, and it is a beautiful thing, all coming together for the love of this great music. Also, if you can throw us a buck or two, we could use the support financially, keeping the lights on, keeping the servers going, all these expenses. If you can help support the program, whatever you can give, much appreciated. Go to the funkinstuff.net website, and on the right-hand side of every page, you just click and you can donate through PayPal, credit card, whatever. Very easy to do. and so much appreciated. And if you do a sizable donation, I will mention you on the program. Also, drop me a line. Email me at scottg@funkinstuff.net. Let me know who else you'd like to see on the show, what you enjoy about the music. Let's just kibitz and talk about stuff, talk music. You'll find that I respond very quickly, and I much enjoy the rapport and the camaraderie and the interaction. Always remember, this is your show, The True Music Lover. So for now, that's all the time we have for this one. It's a wrap. As always, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.